fairly quickly if you need to, if in the event of a natural disaster. To take it as an example, Hurricane Katrina. There were some schools that had used they had a disaster recovery plan for their student information system. They contracted with the vendor who every night would take a full copy of that offline. A day after the Hurricane Katrina disaster went through, the school officials contacted this vendor and said, hey, could you run our backup data from your computers? It was web-based. And they were up and running the next day, and they used that as information to contact parents and victims and students, and I don't know exactly how they were using that data, but as an information gathering tool, and it was one of the few systems that was actually up and running for this area of New Orleans. As an example, is that going to happen to us? The odds are against it. But again, even for just auditing purposes, I think it's necessary, but it's always important to have this off-site. Other questions?
I see in Goal 5 you have installed redundant internet access into Melrose. Explain why.
As we become more and more dependent on access to the greater world, and we're going to get to in a bit, I'm suggesting some cloud-based, if you will, internet-based facilities for email and calendaring and so forth. We become more and more dependent on that. As we become more and more dependent, if you have one connection coming to the district, that becomes a bottleneck.
And that comes to here?
Yep.
I see. Okay.
So what currently you're paying for internet access to the district with someone like Cox Cable, who I believe in a lot of their public documents, is typically, has to provide certain services to a school system. You could, for low or no money, have them be your backup. Now this could be a slower backup, what have you, and that's fine. It would be a temporary thing until you get your main connection connected back again. But you really want a secondary backup, so in the event if someone hits a pole out here and has an accident and knocks out that access, you can switch and go to that. So it's nice to always have that backup because we're becoming dependent on this for more and more of the tools we're using and some of the wonderful free resources that are available to our teachers and students via the internet. So, does that answer your question?
Yep.
Great.
Thank you.
All right, under professional development, this was another topic that we discussed quite a bit. There's a philosophical change that's happening. We've, for a good many years, felt it was very important for teachers specifically to have specific training workshops on specific technologies. And that has not been unsuccessful, but in the grand scheme of things, I don't think it has been as successful as it could have been in the teaching profession because of the context. Instead of using technology and training with technology and providing more experience for teachers within the technology in their regular everyday duties, we've had as a pullout, as we've done with the students, which we're getting away from, and they've had a very hard time, and I'm talking globally here, of making those connections. So what I'm recommending, and one of the things we've discussed quite a bit, was having regular, ongoing professional development around instructional improvement, which aligns with a lot of the strategic goals of the district, but using that critical technology pieces. So it's a slight shift. It's not technology training to use technology. It's professional development that includes technology for instructional improvement. And it's ongoing, it's regular, and we've been talking about some models that will allow that to take place over the course of the school year. Did you have a question, Julie? Okay. The NETS A and the NETS T are technology, information and communication technology standards that have been endorsed and created by ISTE, which is the International Educational Technology Body. You're going to see the student version in a little bit. But the NETS A is the administrative standards, and the NETS T is the teacher standards. I think it's very important that if we are adopting standards and holding students accountable for these particular technology standards, we should do the same thing for our administrators and for our teachers. And there's a lot of overlap amongst these standards, but I think it's very important that we're doing this. And I believe the state of Rhode Island is actually looking at this as well. One of the things we're going to talk about is the student assessment, the student technology proficiency assessment that is given to all 8th graders by the state. Well, Jamestown administers it, but the state provides it, is based on the NETS S standard for students. The personal learning plan, with some of the newer technologies that are available, the online services, it's becoming far easier to track professional development activities, identify what those standards are that are covered by those activities, and to develop a plan in conjunction with evaluation and supervision activities that take place by administrators of teachers over the course of the year. I think it's critical if you're going to continue down the path of the instructional improvement activities that have been started taking place already in conjunction with these technological pieces that support it, that a plan is laid out for these professional development activities. Too often it's piecemeal, or we'll have certain people take, Microsoft Word 101 for the third time because it fulfills a requirement. That's not moving the ball forward. A plan that's part of the evaluation process that can be tracked using the technology, around the technology, instructional improvement plan, I think is critical to the success of building the capacity of teachers. So, other questions? All right, software and services. One of the first things we looked at was the ability of the kind of communications tools that are being used. Email, calendar, mailing lists, and so forth. There are many ways to tackle this problem. The recommendation I made was to outsource these capabilities to Google, actually. They have a program called Google Apps for Education, which is a zero-cost program which provides their suite of communication tools branded to Jamestown or whomever takes them up on this, and it's only available to K-12 and post-secondary institutions to host these tools branded in Jamestown's name, and it's all web-based. As part of the audit, I saw a lot of people already using some of these tools piecemeal. This was a way to make this more systematic and allow it to be managed and administered and protected if need be, but also to get everybody on the same system so that calendar sharing is easier and faster. List management, mailing lists, and so forth works. It's free to use, but there's a caveat. If we want to adhere to e-discovery legislation and so forth, backing up any communications that's taken place within the school system, there is a cost for some of that. So it's not a completely free system, but I think that's a small price to pay to have this wonderful service available, this modern service. Now, to piggyback on that, we also talked about students. And anytime we talk about students, we need to make sure we're SIPA compliant, so we're adhering to federal law. And I also recommended that we have a system, an exact same system for students. Now, I made the recommendation that it's a separate domain name, if you will. It's the same system, but duplicated, one for the staff and school committee employees, and one for students, just to have some separation. But the beauty of this is both are provided, not only these tools for free, but all the assorted other tools around that. If anyone has used any of these Google tools recently can see, it's Microsoft Office, if you will, online, which provides opportunity for collaboration and peer editing. It's web content creation and publishing. It's a fantastic system that becomes almost turnkey to set up for students. I also feel comfortable suggesting this and recommending this because Google makes every effort they can where if and when you need to walk away, they have a specific unit within Google that's called the Data Liberation Front, for their name, not mine, where you can literally remove your data, download your email, download your documents, your calendar appointments, and walk away. Where traditionally with other vendors, no names, they do whatever they can to lock you in and make those switching costs so high that you'll stick with them. I feel comfortable recommending this because we're actually taking a different approach. I feel so comfortable with our product and where it is that we're happy to let you walk away if you need to, but we don't think you will. So that's my reasoning behind that.
How compatible is that with like Lotus Notes and Outlook and other calendars?
You can share calendar events with an Outlook person and so forth. It's not quite as automated, but the recommendation is to have all staff on Google Calendar, but it speaks a non-proprietary calendar language, if you will. Email, obviously, there's no compatibility issue, and